usually don't push it. So.
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. As always, we are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, we're going to be discussing Disney's latest leadership change and what it means for the future of Star Wars. That's right. One Bob is out and someone other than a Bob is going in. We're going to talk all about that. We also have a guest host to help break it as well in further detail. And we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu heading to the Super Bowl and what to expect on Super Bowl Sunday for Star Wars. All this and much more. My name is Chris. Joining me, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? It's good to be back. And yes, there's been a changing of the Bobs. And they changed so much. They added a Josh to the situation. So we'll break all that down because I think a lot of people are going like, does this change anything? Is this actually going to change anything? You know, what does this mean, you know, overall? And yeah, who knows? We'll talk about that if really there's anything to be concerned about. Or if it's just, you know, it's just corporate shenanigans that we all struggle to understand, or at least I do. So, yeah, should be interesting.
Heck yes. Also joining us to as we go into a deep dive with the Disney corporate structure. It's our resident Disney expert from Ion Canada, Mr. Joel Davis. Hi, Joel.
Well, one thing you gotta know, guys, is it being the CEO of Disney is like the King of England or the Pope. First, you gotta change your name. So it's like Josh will take on the name Bob the Third. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true at all. It should be. One day, I think it will be in the dystopian future where Disney becomes the Catholic Church of the future. That is my prediction for the future, and I'm sticking with it. But yes, I'm excited to be here, talk about big old corporations and the money and all that stuff, because that's why we're here as Star Wars nerds.
There's white smoke over Cinderella's castle. It's coming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's very accurate. I think, during certain Disney evening shows, there's like always white smoke over the castle. So it's perfect. It's perfect analogy. Yes. Awesome. We might have some more guests joining us later. But perhaps. For now, let's do some plugs really quickly and then continue talking about the big change at Disney. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you punch that subscribe button, Chewy. You can also super chat with us and become a channel member. If you're listening to the show, please leave a review and hit the subscribe button on the podcast app that you're listening to us on. Make sure that you join our Discord. Link is in the description. And you can follow us on social media by searching the SWU on your favorite social media site. And of course, the show doesn't end tonight. It continues with other shows on the network. So make sure you check out the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more as well on the Star Wars Underworld Network. Okay, so let's get right back to the big news, the big headline. Ben, what are all the details that have been released about this change?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. Bob Iger, I mean, this was actually reported last week that Bob Iger was looking to get out before the end of the year. He's already well past his, long after his term is expired. So the Bob is looking for a way out, and they have officially selected a former Disney Experiences chairman, Josh D'Amaro. I hope I'm saying that right. I'll figure it out one of these days, and I'll promise I'll fix it. Who will succeed Bob Iger as the next CEO? And that's not all. Similarly to Lucasfilm, we have another player entering the field to kind of fill the big shoes of the Bob. Dana Walden, who was the former co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, has also been selected as the new president and chief creative officer of the Walt Disney Company. So two big things. I mean, he's been in the wind for a long time. A lot of people know him. If you follow Disney, you know his name. You've seen him around. So not a big surprise, not a things. But yeah, any reactions? Joel, being the Disney expert, I'm curious to get your take on the new Bob the Third.
I'm not just a Disney expert. Oh, happy birthday! I don't know how to pronounce that.
Hey, happy birthday!
Well, I'm not just a Disney expert. I'm also a Disney shareholder, and I get my official voting board thing. But no. Here's a fun fact before I kind of go into it. I actually have seen Josh D'Amaro. I would want to call him Demario, and I don't think that's correct. D'Amaro in person. I didn't actually meet him, but I saw him in person when I went to Galaxy's Edge last year or the year before that? Might have been last year. Yeah, he was there at a big Star Wars spectacle charity thing, and when I recognized him because I knew who the big wigs at Disney were, and like, oh my god, that's the Disney guy, that's the parks guy, Josh D'Amaro. So yeah, I have been in range of his presence. I am in the range of the power of Disney now. As for my take, it's kind of one of those surprising unsurprises. It's a little like Filoni taking over Lucasfilm. It's a little bit of a... I'm not super surprised by this, honestly. He kind of was one of the thought of successors for a while after the Chapek fiasco went downhill. The fact that they, again, put a parks guy in charge, I think that kind of makes sense when you remember that despite all the talk about, dude, Disney owns all these nerdy IPs and stuff, and its movie studios, like, no, Disney makes their money from its theme parks, their cruises, and their real estate businesses. They are a theme park company that just happens to own movie studios. So I think that's just a sign of everything is going to be going through the parks. The parks are kind of the centerpiece of Disney's business. The movies are there to make the IP to put in the park. When they make a movie, it is how many things in the merchandise can we put in the park? Can we add this to Star Wars Land? Can we make new lands? How many else do we need more else's? The parks are always the center of gravity. I know from a few insiders or just people I talk to who also know about Disney that Josh is also just a charismatic person. He seems to be well respected and liked among his peers compared to Bob Chapek, who was always a weird choice because nobody liked him. That was always the weird thing about Chapek. It's like nobody liked the guy even from the beginning. Also, it seems interesting that Dana Walden is now the chief creative officer, so maybe that's sort of to diffuse a little bit of the power among the Bob, where it's sort of like Dana handles the more movie side of things because she's well respected in Hollywood and stuff like that, so she's still kind of in the company in the higher echelons of the power. In terms of like how this affects Star Wars, I'll be honest, I don't think as drastically as one might appear. I mean, Josh has talked about maybe apparently more autonomy for studio heads, which is always good. So he's not going to just centralize power and take it away from Filoni and Kevin Feige and whoever's in charge of Pixar and Disney Animated Studios. In terms of what they were allowed to do compared to what Chapek did during his tenure. So probably won't shake things up too drastically. But again, I don't see a major difference. I feel like the direction Disney is heading was always sort of, less streaming shows, which we're already seeing, kind of back to the films, which we're seeing, with not just Star Wars, but Marvel and Zootopia and their original slate stuff, and using the movies to promote the parks and build more parks. I know they want to build parks in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia, so there's that. So that's kind of my take of. My guess is probably continuity in all the ways. Like people are already kind of getting annoyed by the AI stuff, but like I think Disney's always been wanting to do this. It's just they're more open about it now, where it's like maybe the savvier thing is just stay quiet about it, but still do it anyway. Which, let's face it, I think everyone is doing for the most part. Just how open about we want to use AI, or like AI won't replace humans, and it's like they're still going to use it. Everyone's doing it. I think most of the studio heads even kind of like it to some extent. I wouldn't be surprised if like even old Dave and John find it interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if George himself probably would have loved AI back in the day too, for other reasons, like you don't have to work with people. I don't like people. But no, I think we'll see probably, hopefully, a more successful transition where Bob doesn't feel like he had to come back and Josh doesn't make enemies of everybody, right away like old Chapek did. But we'll have to see. I think it'll be a more steadier transition of power to the next generation of corporate overlords. So that's my take.
Yeah. No, I think fair take. But let's before we get to you, Chris, back on the hot seat right now. Welcome back, Hannah Raeside. Tell us, how is this going to ruin or save Star Wars?
It's over. It's over. No.
Back to bags, everybody. Let's go.
Yeah, that's it. Go home. Show's over. No. Well, great to be back, first of all. But let's get right into it. Great takes there, Joel. Yes. What do I just thought of something I wanted to add to this thing. Oh, yeah, just briefly on is his name Josh? Oh, what's his name? I've
yes,
really
Josh D'Amaro.
Josh. What do you call him, Mr. D'Amaro? Josh. The only thing that makes me trepidatious about this guy is that he was in charge of and approved of and made happen Flamin' Star Beacon Cruiser, Starlight Cruiser. What was this? Star Wars Hotel?
Star Cruiser.
Starlight Beacon?
Star Cruiser.
Oh,
I got confused there with Starlight Beacon. Galactic Star Cruiser. That is the only thing that I'm like, that is one of the most glaringly out of touch un-Star Wars things to happen in Disney. And he was sort of head of everything going ahead with the parks when that was created and all happened. So that's my only trepidatious thing. Apart from that, I'm pretty open-minded. I don't know this guy. I'm not familiar because really, apart from Star Wars, I'm not keeping up with Disney at all. I really don't watch or kind of engage with any sort of other Disney IPs, I guess. So, this is a brand new guy to me, so I don't really know much about him. But it is funny. I love Joel, obviously mentioning, the transfer of Bobs. That is such just forever going to be remember the time that Bob retired and then replaced by a Bob, and then Bob was bad, so the other Bob came back out of retirement. That is just so great. That's so funny. So. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be cool to not have a Bob in charge for a while. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm open to it. I'm very open to it.
Yeah. It's all up in the air now. We're without a Bob now. What do we do?
We're Bobless. We are Bobless.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this, but I want to get your thoughts on this, Chris, first about just our Bobless future. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, my reaction, very similar to Joel's about how it means that parks are going to be positioned first, and then entertainment is going to be feeding into the parks. But I really like the, analysis that Josh is going to still let the studio heads kind of do what they do best and not try to micromanage things. So I think this is pretty great, but I mean, it's just really hard to know right now until we start seeing some actual decisions made what this is going to mean. It's very hard to speculate how somebody who wasn't really involved in the production side of entertainment is going to affect the entertainment side. Now, it's exciting for Star Wars in the parks, definitely, because it shows that there's going to be, continued interest to keep Star Wars very present in the parks and continue to evolve it. While the Galactic Star Cruiser failed, at least it was an attempt. I want to see more attempts. I don't want to see them try things just because that failed. So I'm happy that somebody who was willing to do that is in charge. So I'm just hoping that this means that we get even more Star Wars in the parks, more diversity of the type of Star Wars we get in the parks, which we're already starting to see with them changing the timelines a bit, and Batuu. And perhaps maybe some other things, like maybe another shot at a Star Wars themed like hotel or resort down the road, but maybe a different take on it. Maybe not like a fully immersive experience, but more something kind of similar to like Pop Century or the Grand Floridian, but it's Star Wars. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have someone. I mean, Joel, I think you got a great point when it says like, the whole idea that Disney is a theme parks company that just, it just happens to have all the stuff to feed into things. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that like their things, that is their big money maker. That's the thing that everyone wants to go to all the time.
It's what saved the company several times from bankruptcy in their history.
Yeah. So that's interesting to have someone that comes from that background going into this. And like, other than that, I don't know much about Josh or any of these people, like, so like, I can't like specifically speculate about like, okay, well, what are they going to bring to the table? I love Disney. I'm a big fan of Disney. I do follow this stuff or try to, but I don't understand the half of it. Like, I didn't know Bob Chapek until people started saying, oh, Bob Paycheck is in charge of Disney. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound good. And it wasn't. But I think if you'd asked me a year ago if Disney, like the CEO of Disney, was hugely influential in Lucasfilm and Star Wars, I probably would have told you no. I probably would have told you something along the lines of what you see online all the time, which is like the whole idea of like, well, Disney doesn't make the movies. It's not Disney Star Wars. It's Lucasfilm Star Wars, blah, 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 like all this kind of stuff. And I think that still, from a creative point of view, that is the case. Lucasfilm is making the movies and the TV shows, and was Kathleen Kennedy and I'll be Dave Filoni overseeing all this. And it's not necessarily Disney being hands-on with this stuff. But I think one thing that has pushed me towards like, okay, Disney is more hands-on than they need to be, and they have been, is the Hunt for Ben Solo. I think that was the tipping point for me of being like, okay, all right, there's been some mistakes. There's been some very public failures of Star Wars in the last 15 years and stuff that we haven't seen that we should have seen. And I think you can lay that at the feet of both Bobs. I think more so than like Kathleen Kennedy or anybody else thinks. Not to say that they like there isn't a certain amount of responsibility that should be shared among the executives at both of these companies, but I think Bob Iger had an influence on Lucasfilm and Star Wars as a whole. He's the whole reason Disney owns Star Wars now is because he basically chalked George Lucas into selling to him. So, and I think going forward, you have to keep that into perspective. I'm just like, okay, well, they do have an effect. Disney is having an effect. They are writing the checks and they are approving or disapproving certain projects. And now, honestly, more than ever, I am more than ever positive that something like the Hunt for Ben Solo might happen now. I think having new leadership at both companies leaves the door open to be like, okay, we might actually get that movie now, maybe, or something along that lines. That leaves me excited. Having new and yes, younger blood running both of these companies, I think, is exciting, and I hope this leads to things. Now we could be sitting here in 5 to 10 years going like, boo, Josh, boo, don't like Josh. But hopefully not. Hopefully, Josh, we will watch your career with great interest.
Well, a couple things, Ben, I just wanted to talk about because you brought up some really good points. If you want to talk about like just Star Wars, Disney's influence on Star Wars, I mean, obviously the big one I think is the release dates of the sequel trilogies. Bob was very much 2015. Yeah. Get that out. a plan. I don't give a shit. I don't give a heck of a plan. You take that movie out. Rise of Skywalker. I think the biggest Achilles heel of that movie, even outside of just bringing back J.J. Abrams, was that 2019 release date. I think because of how they lost the whole director and had to kind of start from scratch. They weren't given time to like pause and like, okay, regroup. We lost a director. The last movie kind of got us. Whoa, what happened here? There's also rumor, although I'm not 100% sure about this one, of it was Bob Iger who wanted Lord and Miller for the solo film, and Kathy was kind of like, I'm not sure about these guys. I'm not sure about that one.
We'll just blame it all on Bob.
I'm not sure about that one. I've heard rumors about that one. Although I kind of like Lord Miller, so I'll give him that one. But I think a person we got to focus on is Dana Walden. She is the chief creative head. She is the head of the Disney Studio Group, which oversees Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, Walt Disney Animation Studios. Bergman, who is also the guy who I guess said no to Hunt for Ben Solo, is still technically there. He reports to her, and then she reports to Josh. So that's kind of how the power structure works. So I know Dana has a history with Fox Studios for 15 years. She was the head of the television group stuff. Apparently, she's very open to good ideas. She's made a lot of smart decisions. I think the only kind of blight against her was the Kimmel situation, from what I heard, where but she also got Kimmel's contract extended. So one step back, but 10 step, I guess, good step forward there, I guess. So honestly, I would look at her quite a bit as well, in terms of people to kind of look in terms of both if Hunt for Ben Solo happens, which I'll be honest, just as of now, I'm 50-50 if that actually happens as it is, or if that just got folded into the Kinberg trilogy along with the Rey movie, which I think, I'm going to be honest, I think both are going to get folded into the Kinberg trilogy, and just that's 10, 11, 12 right there. But who knows? But I think definitely somebody to look at is, again, Dana Walden as the chief creative officer / president, or whatever her title is now, in terms of maybe who's making the big boy decisions at Disney when it comes to Star Wars movies moving forward, and streaming shows. Apparently, she likes Visions, though.
Yeah,
at least I heard.
Apparently, she likes Visions. Gee, that's a
Okay.
deep cut there. That's niche.
Wow.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I just want to say about this too is, it comes at such an interesting time of the leadership change at Lucasfilm too, obviously, and it also comes down to like what is Dave and Linwin's relationship going to be with the people that they need to go, hey, we need $10 million to make a
$100 million.
100 million. Yeah, I know. I was like, hang on, that's really cheap, actually. Pitching what they want to do, and having to sell it to them of like, this is a good idea. I think that relationship is going to be really interesting. Because Ben, you mentioned the Hunt for Ben Solo sort of saga. That was really the first of that sort of story to come out from Star Wars, in terms of we have had a myriad of directors on project taken off. During movies, we hear of this person writing it, then it's been cut, scrapped, reshooted, this writer. We are so versed with people changing within the team of a project that's already approved. But this was like the Hunt for Ben Solo was the first time we really got a look into, Lucasfilm being on the same page about something, and that being a differing idea to Disney executives, and that's what that whole thing is just so fascinating for. And so, I think my point is just sort of, it's got to be really interesting to see what that relationship is. How are they going to get things approved? And it could really go either way, from my opinion. I feel like they'll either kind of what we've been saying, just sort of let the studios do what they do, which means Lucasfilm, which means if Dave says $500 million and I'll make you another Grogu that will be really popular, like maybe they'll just say yes and not think about it. It could be good or bad. It's an interesting sort of dynamic there. The other thing I think we also need to mention in talking about this is that where in the pipeline was this sort of like timeline change for the parks of Batuu, and the timeline change of, hey, you're not going to see First Order troopers, you're going to see original stormtroopers and Darth Vader instead of Kylo Ren now. Like, where in the pipeline did that come up? Who brought that up? Who proved that? At what point? Because obviously Dave has been sort of like, in my opinion, shadowing Kathy for at least a year now of, hey, we're priming you to be the president. You know, was that Dave's suggestion to be like, hey, I think we should do this to get people in the parks? Was that Disney saying, hey, guys, we want more, hey, Lucasfilm, we want more people in Batuu. What are we going to do? And then, you know, it's like chicken on the egg. Like, where was that decision made? But I think it's just very telling that 2 massive leadership changes, and one of them is a parks guy saying, I want everyone at the parks, and I think a really interesting timeline change for Star Wars to be like, hey, not forget sequels, but just we're gonna not focus on the sequels right now. We're just gonna focus on the original trilogy. Like, it's such an interesting decision with all this pieces coming together.
Yeah, that's something that I really tied together in my head when, you know, it was clear that Josh was coming from the experience and park side of Disney, is, you know, expanding the parks to include more eras of Star Wars makes sense for that pipeline of the content supporting the parks rather than the parks supporting the content. Because now whatever content they make, it's more likely that that content can be represented in the parks. So I feel like that course correction has to have been related to this change, because I feel like if it was Bob Iger who made that decision should have been made a long time ago. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, I don't think that Bob did a horrible job as CEO of Disney. He was CEO when a lot of great Star Wars and Marvel and Pixar and Disney animation stuff was made. Yeah, there's so many great things made under Bob Iger. So this is not, you know, this is not saying like, oh, everything's going to be so much better now that Bob's gone. I don't feel that way. I think that Josh has a lot to prove and some big shoes to fill. But that being said, I think one of the things that there was some stubbornness with, and I don't know if it was Bob or somebody else under him that was overseeing the parks that was the source of this stubbornness. But the idea to just stick with the Resistance sequel timeline for so long with Galaxy's Edge, and it feels like they should have, as soon as, you know, it became clear that the Mandalorian and the Mandoverse and the stuff on Disney Plus was the future of Star Wars and not the sequels, and that it would be many, many years till we got back to the sequel era. They should have made that change back then, which, you know, several years ago, that change should have been made. So perhaps this loosened up that stubbornness, whatever was shifting around with Josh becoming CEO. So that's I feel like it has something to do with that for sure. And then the other thing that I want to touch on too, this is based on a super chat by Ian Black. Thank you. Star Wars Cruiser was a great idea, just crazily overpriced. We're seeing that repeated in both the parks and also in the media and entertainment as well, where we have 2 really good examples of good ideas that just cost too much to be feasible. One of them was the Galactic Star Cruiser, and the other one was the Acolyte. And both of them, no more Acolyte, no more Star Cruiser, a result of that. So I'm hoping that that Josh learns from that experience and applies it not just to the parks, but to Star Wars in general, and entertainment, and is very careful about, you know, how much money is approved for new projects. And again, if it's a one-off thing, if it's like just one movie, like an idea like Solo or Rogue One, more Rogue One than Solo, because I would have liked to have seen more Solo. Whereas Rogue One kind of already had a sequel made in 1977.
But a great prequel.
Yes, exactly. I feel like you can be more risky with that. But if you're funding something that needs to be ongoing, like a TV show with multiple seasons, or a movie series that really needs to be a series and can't be just a standalone, or a park experience of some type, you have to be very careful about the sustainability of how much money you're investing, and be realistic about the expectations for how much money you're going to make back and how you're going to continue funding it and keeping it being made or keeping it running if it's an experience. So I'm hoping that Josh learns from that, and I'm hoping that that's a positive thing, and that those mistakes, we see less of those mistakes made, like spending too much money on the Acolyte so that, based on its viewership, it just could not be justified to happen for season 2, or spending so much money on making the experience so robust with the Star Cruiser that the whole thing was just not sustainable.
Well, this is why I think that we won't see any immediate changes, because Josh has been there for a while now, and I think collectively the company as a whole has been making these changes, right? Like, look at the Mandalorian Grogu. If Mandalorian Grogu, by some maybe horribleness, does make the same amount of money Solo made, that technically, by all intents and purposes, is still a win, because people say Solo bombed. It didn't make gangbusters for sure compared to those other films, but because of its bloated budget and some other reasons, it technically did not make its money back. If we are to believe, Disney accounting, which you don't have to, I get why. If The Mandalorian is a quote unquote cheap movie, which again, cheap movie, and it makes Solo's money or even just a little bit more, congrats! You have now made a successful, just perfectly fine movie that, if it's successful, you can make more of, and people love the Grogu. Same with Starfighter, right? That's, again, supposed to be, quote-unquote, a low-budget Star Wars movie, in quotes. That, again, if it makes Solo's box office or just a little bit more, congrats. You have now 2 very solid films, and now you can add more stuff to the parks. So I think they are learning those lessons. Those lessons have been learned. And also, Hannah, to your point about the parks and stuff, I remember one little anecdote from Star Wars Celebration Japan that Dave said when talking about Ahsoka, talking about how he needed approval from Disney to, get the show made. Because from what I heard, Ahsoka Season 2 might not have happened. It was a very, ooh, is this going to happen? One thing he said was, oh, look, I got these cute little Los kittens. We're going to sell them at Galaxy's Edge, and that's kind of a big reason. I'm sure maybe he was exaggerating, but he was like,
such a good point.
Disney were like, this will help make. I gotta get the money back, guys. So buy the Los kittens, please.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and to jump off the back of that as well, I find it so funny. Like, Mando movie is in what 3 months? 3 months time.
Yeah.
The majority of information that we have about this movie, that which Star Wars triumphant return to theaters in 7 years. The most information we have is that the tiny little BDX droids that you see in the movie will be at the parks. They're gonna be at the park. Oh my god, they're at the park, and it's just like that was cool for when it was mentioned, being like, oh, that's cool. That has been boring information ever since. But they did it because they did that. Like what you said about the Lothcats for Ahsoka, they did the same thing with the BDX droids. It was like, Mano panel, we're gonna find out everything, and it was just Jon Favreau being like, so these are the droids. Like the droids, please. These are the droids that will be at the parks. And that was the main thing of it. That was the whole shtick. So yes, they so do that. Now that you say that, Joel, and I remember him saying, being all about the Lothcats being a big deal. I'm like, this makes sense now.
And I want to just add one more thing about what you talk about, Bob and not Bob. Dang it, the shadow of the Bob lives on. Josh and and Dave's relationship, and Lin Brennan and Dana Walden is. I think one thing to maybe a glass half full look at it can be, if Iger had stayed but Dave had left, I would have been a little more concerned, because there is a concern of when Dave Filoni, great creative, but very wet behind the ears instead of a studio head, and Hollywood's all about relationships and who and who you have lunch with. Dave Filoni's still kind of wet behind the ears. Bob Iger, the grand emperor of Hollywood, probably the most powerful man in Hollywood, quite frankly. Bob's gonna come down on Dave if he thinks, oh, you're not doing a good job, or what the heck is what is this Mortis? What the who now? The Father, the Son, and the Holy what? Yeah, whereas Josh, obviously he had years of experience too in executive stuff, but he's just getting started. He's not really a Hollywood person. He lives in Anaheim, funny enough, not in Hollywood.
Wow.
So I think there's a little bit more equal parity of power and experience between the two, and they're around the same age, maybe more or less. I don't know who's older, who's younger, but there's definitely a little bit more power parity here between these two. and say Bob Iger, the Emperor of Hollywood, and Dave Filoni, this guy who made cartoons, is now a studio head. So that's also something to think about.
Yeah, I think for me, just to kind of put a button on my thoughts here, is I hope, and this is my hope for not just Josh, but everyone involved here, Filoni, Bloom and Brennan, like all the people that are at the top now, because you're having basically, in political terms, a new administration has come to the table and is taking over and is moving things forward. And what does that mean? I hope that ultimately they can be, and this is something that I keep hearing this phrase from people all over the industry, actors, whatever else, people talking about being less risk averse, being less scared to take chances on things. I think if you study movies, you go back and listen to the making of literally any movie, most of them are filled with stories of people taking chances, people having faith in something. I think Star Wars, famously, Alan Ladd Jr., having faith in George Lucas, seeing what George Lucas was doing and being like, I'm going to take a chance in this guy and I'm going to do this. When the studio heads were not everyone was on the same page. People working like as stagehands thought Star Wars was a joke. They did not take it seriously. And yet it worked because people like Alan Ladd Jr. really took a chance and believed in the project. I hope Josh and everyone involved here can do that and continue forward and be able to say, hey, look, we're going to do this thing. And it may not work, but let's do it anyway. And because we believe in the story, believe in the characters. And let's hope for one of those things is The Hunt for Ben Solo or literally anything else. The Galactic Star Cruiser thing is a black mark on Disney and Star Wars. But I don't know. I've always felt weird about that because I'm like, yeah, obviously it was a failure. But it almost felt like something that it was like, this is peak creativity. These are people that are like, we don't care how much it costs, just do it. Like, let's make the most immersive, incredible Star Wars experience you can possibly imagine. And I know Jenny Nicholson picked it apart, and it wasn't all maybe what it was cracked up to be, but they were trying. They were really trying to do something unique and special. And I think ultimately the problem was they didn't have the finances guy walking them through, going like, this is going to cost too much money, right? This is, at the end of the day, you're going to have to put an insane price tag on this to make this sustainable. And it didn't happen. And then they get to the end of it and everyone's just like, I can't afford that. And it fails. So being able to, obviously, the business element is always going to be part of it. For better or worse, it's always going to be a part of it. Star Wars is a product. It's just something to sold, and it has to sell a lot to be successful. We want Star Wars to be successful, but we also want good stories. We want good stuff. We want good stuff in the theme parks. Hopefully they can find that balance, and hopefully they're not, and hopefully go out there and things like, I was not the biggest fan of the Acolyte. I don't think it's perfect, but I'm glad it happened. And I'm glad that they took a chance on that, and I wish they'd taken more chances on it and gave it another season or two and let it finish out its story. But ultimately, anything, whether I like it or not, I'm glad, okay, you took a swing. You missed, but hey, I appreciate that you took the swing.
Yeah, I definitely love that. Yeah, well, exactly what you've said here. And I think about it all the time of like certain decisions that I don't like that they've done. Like, off the bat, I mentioned Star Cruiser. And I think... and this is completely personally. I don't think, I can't, like, on a business sense, judge if that was a good decision or not. But from my opinion, I think the reason that didn't work is that they were jumping on something new and creative and bold, but in the wrong sense. It was new, bold, and creative, but to something unknown to Star Wars, like the setting, the characters, the lay out the ship, like everything of it was new, completely new. Where I think Star Wars' strength is obviously rooted in that legacy and the shows, the books, the everything. Even when we get new characters, it's rooted in things we're familiar with. And so one thing that, like talking specifically about the parks, one thing I think is actually going to be very successful, even though I just trashed talking about, I hate the BDX droids from the movie. I think it's really smart. You know, they've started, or at least it was announced a couple months ago. I think it's probably under construction now, that they're changing certain elements of, what's the Millennium Falcon ride? But there's certain elements of that is going to be thematically around the Mando movie. And it's going to be done, surprisingly not months after the thing, which Star Wars loves to do, but it's going to be done by when the movie comes out. Or it's like maybe 2-3 weeks after the movie comes out. You know, you can experience what you saw in the movie or some sort of element in the Millennium Falcon, and you get to see Mando, you know, on the screens flying, or, you know, see Mando fly with you and do all this stuff. And I just think that's genius. That's so smart. Like, even if the Mando movie is, like, at best very average, that's still going to be cool in a sense to be like, you know, have that immersive step. You're booking Galaxy's Edge anywhere, you're there, and there's that thing. And I'm super big on the kind of extra media, just parks aside, but just extra media around Star Wars content. And I'm constantly like, especially with the shows, like they every show that came out for Disney Plus, within that month, there needs to be that concept art, you know, visual, like there needs to be like a visual dictionary, the concept art book. There needs to be like, you know, they did like those live shows for Andor, like building up to the Andor finale. I don't know if you remember that for season 2. And it was like Tony Gilroy and like they had call-ins with the actors. Like that was phenomenal. That was so interesting. That was so cool. That really like scooped in a different crowd. There's sort of all these like random, like creatively bold things in and around the content that I think they need to do more of that would really help, you know, what the content, because I feel like just forever everyone's going to be critical of Star Wars forever, which rightfully so, but it really is the experience that makes it good. Like, yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I just want to say, just to give Josh a little benefit of the doubt, although I don't know, but this is the one thing I actually don't know, because, you know, I always heard Star Cruiser was very much Chapek's baby. And I also knew that Chapek also was a penny pincher who made it very cheap and cut corners all the time. So for all we know, I mean, you know, Josh might have been totally cool with that, and, you know, just like, okay, boss, cutting the budget here. You know, but, you know, for all we know, Josh's hands might have been tied, and, you know, if he were the true boss, he might have done things differently. Well, I don't know. You know, again, it's like the stream, it's like Star Wars streaming, right? Like Chapek was the one who said, Feige, a bajillion Marvel shows that you can't even produce them all, and you stretch you thin. Go, go, go. Lucasfilm, we don't care about movies. Streaming, go, go, go. And then when Iger comes back, it's like, okay, changing course. Let's go back to movies. Cut the streaming. Acolyte season 2. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Cut. Andor 2 seasons now. Also, because Tony Gilroy kind of knows this, the money is coming down on streaming. You know, streaming just dead. We're going back to films, everybody. Let's go. Again, it's those collective decisions. I think we also have to focus on the fact that, yeah, I mean, obviously the names are changing, and I'm sure some things will happen. But obviously, these are still collective decisions by these boards and these CEOs, and it's not like, you know, if Josh tomorrow is just doing things at random, he's gonna lose his position really quick, because that's how you lose a company. Is you make everyone mad at you at once. So you're gonna have to steer the ship in a certain way.
Yeah, for sure. And actually this ties in pretty neatly with what we have got another super chat, I think, from Eaton Black, who says, will the reactionary decision making change now? I think
that's a great question.
That reminds me of my kind of biggest criticism of the last like 15 years is just like Star Wars and Disney being very reactionary. Like, I think Kathleen Kennedy was hinting at it, or maybe straight up said it like recently. I'm just like, you know, the reaction to The Last Jedi, like, absolutely influenced their decision to not do Rian Johnson's trilogy. Like that was pretty apparent from the get-go. I think it was all but confirmed. I think, you know, and there's just other things that have come up, just like, you know, I wish saying this on a Star Wars podcast, I want as many people to listen to this as possible, but also Disney, do not listen to us, okay? We don't know what we want most of the time. And I'm tired I'm tired of the fans being put on a pedestal and being like, you got to listen to the fans. No, just make stuff, just do good things, and because the fans don't know what half they want. I think Disney just had their finger too hard on the pulse of the fandom and everything like that. That just I think a lot of things went wrong when Disney was just too obsessed with trying to please everyone.
No, that's not going to change because that's just how the Hollywood system works. It's been that way since the producing dawn of time. Honestly, it probably was even worse because there were like way worse horror stories in Hollywood to the beginning, quite frankly. That's just how all media executives are. Reactionary, probably more conservative.
It's just way more apparent now. It's way more in your face because of social media.
And they all use Twitter. A lot of Hollywood executives loved X. And stay on it.
The worst place to be for that too.
Good Lord.
Do you think? Lord. I mean, like, we could example so many different shows for this sort of question, but I look at Clone Wars as a show, and that went through kind of being still and almost just out of the prequel era. George mind expand. Let's do something. They do this really like kind of dodge half cool, half odd movie, animated. It's different. It's weird. People don't love it. People hate this main character that they introduced, and then kind of pioneered on with it. Dave comes in, and then you get into the show. You get into season 1 and 2, and every season, I feel like it's kind of other people prefer other seasons, but like in general, the Clone Wars show got better every season. The stories got more refined. The stories and the characters got more in depth. And that's even still through the Disney kind of handover, even with the weird like double cancel, double reboot. It's still sort of improved. And how did that actually happen? Because I don't think at all like Dave had no idea of what people wanted from the show. Like I don't think it was simply. I think my question sort of is how much of the decision making of it being better was reactionary, being like, oh, the audience are wanting more in-depth stories. They're wanting less silliness or less of XYZ that is making up the show. Let's do that better in the next season. Like how reactionary was the Clone Wars show to make it better is, I don't know if that's
I got an answer for that actually. I have a controversial answer for that. So, I mean, I think obviously, Clone Wars, I think you can't compare Clone Wars to anything in the Disney era because that's when Lucasfilm was owned by George, and George is a crazy billionaire who's just going to do whatever the heck he wants. But I do think there are a few little instances where you can see, and I've heard actually prequel fans, older prequel fans, younger prequel fans not so much, but older prequel fans critique this about the Clone Wars, weirdly enough, and there's a little bit of a weird divide if you go online and you look hard enough. One, Anakin's characterization. He is not the whiny little annoying douche in the Clone Wars, and they even got a different voice actor. They were originally going to get the 2D Clone Wars voice actor who sounds way more like Hayden to be Anakin, where I've always known that they kind of changed the character a little bit to be like Luke and Han Solo mixed together. I remember that's what George said, I think, when he was like, let's make Anakin. Another thing, and this is me kind of reading into it, is a lot of those early seasons, once you get into like season 3 or maybe even season 2, it starts finding its footing, I feel had a very original trilogy vibe to it. Very Separatists are the bad guys, Republic the good guys. Here is the evil plan of the Separatists this week, to use an evil, malevolent laser beam to destroy the Jedi, and here's Grievous's plans, and here's the Y-Wing attack squad. Let's go. And also kind of certain way to be characterized characters, like Yoda's a lot more funny and silly and kind of more original trilogy-esque Yoda compared to the more dour, serious Yoda of the prequels. So there's that. Not sure if Maul the reactionary thing or that's just George wanting to do that, but I would say there is some reactionariness to the Clone Wars. It's not as hardcore as I think maybe something like Rise of Skywalker would be, but I definitely think there is a reaction to it in the same ways I think Attack of the Clones is the most reactionary Star Wars film that George ever made, because cut down on Jar Jar, brought Boba Fett in as a clone. You didn't need to do that. I mean, I like it, but it's like you still kind of did it. It's kind of the epitome of fan service. And you made Yoda do some lightsaber stuff, which I think George thought, hey, that'd be cool. Let's have Yoda do swinging around and do some cool stuff. So
yeah,
I definitely think there was some of it.
There's a level of reactionary that is good. Is the moral. It's just what your decision upon that reaction is I think what we're getting at.
I mean, if everyone is telling you this is bad, and you just keep doing it, you keep making movies and they're all bad, and everyone agrees it's bad, like that's probably a bad idea. But I think, and so much of George's approach to this was like, screw the haters, I'm going to have what I want. Jar Jar is my favorite character, blah, blah, blah. Like all that was like George, like throwing a middle finger to everyone, saying like, I want to do what I want. But yes, he was like, you have Jar Jar being such a pivotal role in Phantom Menace, and then immediately basically getting written out in Attack of the Clones. Like that's
gone by
like,
Revenge
blatantly
of the Sith. Gone.
Yeah, like he has one line and he's hardly in it. Like that's George being reactionary, and I think, and you just have to go back to that era and live through that time to know that like how bad it was and like why George did that. It's because like you had the whole world screaming at him at that point. So I don't think being like listening to people and like taking criticism is not bad, but I think it's also been taken to the extremes in certain cases, especially in the modern era.
I would also argue that Hayden coming back in streaming is reactionary. I think because enough time had elapsed,
way,
and the fans,
people were like,
in a good way, yeah.
The
like there was
Obi-Wan
such a
show's
turn.
reactionary. I think we want you, and we like, he's the only good thing about the prequels.
Yeah.
I say in quotes.
So interesting. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see if we get more of that or what. I don't know, because I don't know. It's like fan service. It's like some people use fan service as a dirty word. I'm just like, I like me some good fan service. Maybe being reactionary can be good sometimes. Who knows?
I'll keep throwing one more example about something we're going to talk about. Isn't The Mandalorian Grogu in some ways just reactionary? It's Disney's best thing they've done in streaming. It's the most popular thing. Everyone, it's like if streaming isn't making money, let's just throw $100,000 and make it a movie. You probably are going to get some return on investment because of it. Everyone loves Grogu. Normies love Grogu. Just make it a movie. There you go. It's, you'll make more money off of a movie than maybe even season 4 at this point. So, there you go.
Well, speaking of The Mandalorian and Grogu, we got some news about that. We got some stuff about that. This happened, I believe today. This was officially revealed as a big unveiling ceremony at the Sapporo Snow Festival in Japan. This giant snow sculpture of Mando and Grogu with the Mandalorian and Grogu written in Japanese. It's beautiful. It's so amazing. And showing that, like, yeah, and Hannah, you literally you said oh, it's like 3 months away. I'm just like, no, it's not 3 months away. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, it is 3 months away. Good Lord. So yeah, it's starting to kick in that it's happening, guys. It's not that far away. And speaking of something else that might not be so far away is, well, a new trailer for The Mandalorian Grogu. We're kind of due for that. And for those of you who are not aware, the Super Bowl is coming up this Sunday.
What?
And apparently we are going to be getting at least, because usually this happens where they'll do a trailer before, and then we'll get a snippet of it, like a 30-second spot, because it costs $1 billion per second to be in the Super Bowl. So
Exactly.
I don't know how much we're gonna get, but I think I hazard to say a TV spot, 30-second spot, and then we'll get a full trailer either before or after the Super Bowl. They did something similar with Solo: A Star Wars Story back then, so I think so. I don't know who's watching the Super Bowl just for Mando and Grogu.
Okay, so I'm gonna reenact me at the Super Bowl. All right, so let's see. Hat. Okay.
Oh, I love this.
Let's see. Football.
This is immersive.
Previous.
Oh yes.
Previous
We're
Super
there.
Bowl.
Oh,
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
there you go.
Super
There you go.
Bowl. All right, we got Grogu ready to go. All right, I'm
Oh,
ready.
that's
I'm ready.
perfect.
Let's happen. Wait, I have to wait 2 days. Shoot,
Hey.
I want it now. I want it tonight. Let's go.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Yeah.
Wow.
I like to think that we're getting this because Pedro finally turned in his voiceover lines because we got like zero dialogue in the first trailer. So maybe his voiceover stuff is ready now.
Impressive.
So hopefully we get dialogue in this trailer. That's like, which is such a weird thing to be like, I hope this trailer has dialogue. But I've never thought that before, but I think about this one. I'm like, please say something cool, please. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I hope
was
it's
just
got action
thinking.
in it.
I was just thinking about this, combining my favorite years because of Super Bowls with my favorite years because of Star Wars movies, and they line up like shockingly well. Okay, so first of all, what year was the first Super Bowl that I watched? 2002. So, in fact,
Oh, wow.
this shirt is a throwback to the 2002 Super Bowl. What is Hannah wearing right now? A shirt that is the throwback to the 2002 Star Wars movie. So
Oh,
they
dang.
line up right now, full circle. Other favorite Super Bowl years for me. Okay, there was no movie in 04. That's the only anomaly. But 05 is when Revenge of the Sith came out. Then other favorite Super Bowls, 2015. It was literally the same two teams playing each other that are playing each other this year in 2015
Wow.
when Star Wars came back with The Force Awakens. 2017, that was a big year for Star Wars. 2019, another big year for Star Wars. And here we are at 2026. Potentially, this could be my 7th favorite Super Bowl of all time. And it's another year with a Star Wars movie. So it's wild that of all these 7 years that I'm looking at, only one doesn't line up with a Star Wars movie. And it begins and ends with amazing Star Wars movie experiences.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we're once again trying for May after years of December. I mean, the marketing for this film has been interesting, to say the least, because I've always kind of... There's a part of me that I feel like, as a Star Wars fan, part of me wonders if I, as a hardcore Star Wars fan, maybe need to readjust my entire perception of this film and maybe the marketing of it all. Because, like, we always talk about, it's Star Wars is after 7 years of not being in theaters. But I kind of wonder if that's even important anymore. If Star Wars being in the theaters is kind of not important as we think it is, for a few reasons. One, like I've said many times, we've had live-action Star Wars, and if you kind of consider that most people, unfortunately, consider live-action Star Wars, quote-unquote, real Star Wars, which I don't, as an animated fan, but, let's face it, most people in the world do. To them, it's like, well, we've had lots of live-action Star Wars. It's just now in a theater. Now I don't have to buy Disney+. So there's that. Second, I think a lot of normal people just know what this is because it's like, Grogu is everywhere, man. I can't escape Grogu. I go to a Target. I go to a store. It's like, I see Grogu just randomly on people's shirts sometimes. Like, I used to have a Grogu cup. It got all dirty and ripped. But, like, Grogu's kind of everywhere. And I do wonder if the appeal is, like, less to hardcore Star Wars fans. It's just more like, hey, parents, take your kids to see the baby. Because they like the baby Yoda. It's for your kids, and it's the same audience that watched live action Lilo and Stitch, which was also going to be a Disney Plus event before they made it a movie, and now it made $1 billion. So if live action Lilo and Stitch can do
The precedent is there.
so can this. And also the third thing, and I wonder if this is just something that the post-COVID world has just created for us, unfortunately, is the idea of big drawn-out marketing campaigns just don't work anymore. And it's like, you know what? We're going to treat this like elections in other countries, where you get 3 weeks of electioneering, and then you vote, and then it's it. No long, month and a half of just smashing into your brain, this movie's coming out in May, instead of drawing it out forever and ever and ever until December. It's like, all right, late March to most of April to May, Mando and Grogu. You're going to get a TV spot every day until you're sick of seeing it and feel like the whole movie's been spoiled for you. Go see it. And also because I also think maybe general audiences just have very, very short attention spans and will not remember if you market it heavily a year beforehand. So that's kind of like my whole thought process here. And also, it's the Super Bowl. Most regular audiences are watching the Super Bowl because it's the Merc, and we love our football. So I'm just kind of pondering if that's another reason why this is happening on the Super Bowl as well, and that this is a Star Wars film where we kind of need to toss away all the old precedents now. It's like all that no longer matters. We're new precedents across the board because we're just in a post-COVID world, a post-streaming world too, and I'm just kind of racking my brain around that in terms of the marketing. I hope the trailer's good, and I do hope, like Hannah, there's some dialogue and a sense of what the story's about, because I have no idea what the actual story is. I mean, I could make a guess of what I think the story's about, but I don't know. The trailer just says, here's Baby Yoda. He's being cute. Go see the movie.
The last time that I saw Baby Yoda randomly in public was the last time I left my house.
There you go. There you go.
Honestly, same.
Yeah.
Honestly, same.
Yeah.
Almost every time I'm out, I see somebody wearing a shirt or something.
Yeah, when I like in December, I like fractured my hand. I feel like I came on for a show like the day that happened, like the week that happened, or whatever. Anyway, as I was getting like I was at the doctor's clinic and I was getting like a little brace thing put on by the nurse. I was wearing a Star Wars shirt, and the nurse, she was probably maybe like a 50-year-old woman. And she just was making small talk, being like, "Oh, you like Star Wars, eh?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big fan." And then she doesn't say anything, and she just like puts her shoe like on the bench next to me, and then hikes up her like sock, and she has Grogu socks on, and there's Grogu's on them, and but she didn't even really say anything. I was just like, "Oh, cool, man, yeah, that's great." And then she just goes, "Oh, I just love Grugao." And I was just like, who? Grugao? Grugao. Is that what we're going with now?
I think
Grugao. I was like, that's actually a sick name. Grugao.
I hope he enjoys the Mandalorian Grugao.
That's the proper pronunciation. We just found it. We've all been saying it wrong. This random woman has been saying it correctly.
She nailed it.
The Mandalorian Grugao.
And I just, in that moment, I had like two thoughts. I had two passages of thought. Like half of me was just like, I turned into like a Star Wars purist gatekeeper being like, that's so wrong. She said that bad. And then obviously half of me did that. The other half of me went, that's really lame that I'm 26 and being like, she didn't pronounce this alien in Star Wars right. Like, I was like, oh, what's sad? I don't know what's sadder that I'm like, oh no, she did it wrong. But yeah, it's really funny being like podcasters and discussionaries in this space, because it's like we have this interesting like opposite zoo effect where it's like we are trying to guess what the general audience's experience is, and we're trying to be like, do they like this? Like, oh, okay, they like these movies, will they see it? Like, it's so fascinating having these discussions, because it's like we're in the zoo. Like, we technically, let's be real, we're all the crazy ones being so obsessed about this, and we're on the inside of the enclosure, and all the general audiences are on the outside. But we're the ones being like, what are they thinking? What do they think of Star Wars? So interesting.
Well, and one that always annoyed me for years and years and years, it still kind of annoys me, is when people add an S to Jedi. They say Jedi's this, Jedi's that. It always I was like, it's plural and singular. But then you have Skeleton Crew comes along, and it's just like Whim says, I think at least once, if not several times, Jedi's, and I'm just like, I love that. I love that like fully canonizes that people in Star Wars say like Jedi's, because like, of course they would. Some people's like people get pissed off that Luke Skywalker says laser sword and Anakin. It's like, come on.
Yes, so true. So true.
I also want to defend the marketing of this movie a little bit, because even though I kind of agree the first trailer was kind of a little underwhelming, they have marketed this movie in front of Disney's two biggest films last year, Zootopia, which made a lot of money, and Avatar, which also, as usual, made a lot of money. I should know. I saw it. I did not see the trailer in IMAX. They cut me out of a trailer. I got the dang countdown instead. I just got the Avengers trailer, so boo.
No.
I didn't get to see the IMAX 3D trailer, which was apparently really cool. And they apparently been changing the trailers in the movie version, which apparently are a lot better than the online version. So take that what you will. So, but smart marketing that they're putting it in front of Disney's two big hits of Zootopia and Avatar, which everyone went to see.
Yes.
And it's probably, at least on Zootopia's level, probably the audience that Mandalorian Grogu wants is families and their children. The children and their families, right? Not single podcasters like us who just talk about Star Wars all day and all we think about.
Speaking of being reactionary, I will be interested to see what the content of this trailer will be. And because I think with the last trailer, half the people were like, "Yay, Mando and Grogu on the big screen!" Everyone, and other half people were crossing their arms, going "It doesn't look like a movie. It is like a TV show they put on the big screen. It doesn't look cinematic enough to me." And I'm wondering, they're going to be "Oh yeah, you wanted cinematic. We're going to be doing this and this and this," and then that could very well be just they didn't have enough cinematic looking shots with VFX done. I think the movie will obviously be a lot closer to being locked picture, if not already locked picture, so they can give us more stuff, and I'm sure some story stuff too, probably dialogue too.
A little reactionaryism is fine, and honestly, a better trailer I think can go a long way. At least I think it can.
Yes, indeed. So we will watch the Super Bowl. I genuinely don't know, because they also, I think one of the times they did TV spot during a sporting event, and then they said trailer tomorrow on Good Morning America. I can't remember what project that was for, but I remember that distinctly. So that could be, we could be getting the full trailer on Good Morning America on Monday morning. Who knows? Should be interesting. All right, well, let's move on to, let's do a little bit of Maul Shadowlord. It's coming even sooner than the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's even less time away. Maul Shadowlord, and we got an interesting little tidbit from I believe this was one of the comic book creators behind the Shadow of Maul. I believe his name is Percy, who said was talking about the character of Brander Lawson, Captain Brander Lawson, which is a great Star Wars name, I have to say, great Star Wars name. And he said that basically kind of give us a further description of who this guy is. And he said, quote, "Lawson used to be a bounty hunter, now he's a cop and a single dad doing the best he can in a lawless territory. He's a good man who pushes limits and breaks the rules." So the big takeaways here is that he's a former bounty hunter and also a single dad. So how that will figure into the character, I don't know. I think he's going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got a Oscar nominee playing him, so I think that's a thing that he's going to be a pretty big part of the show. And I'm very curious to see where he goes and how does I wasn't expecting a beat cop to be part of this show. I'm very curious to see how this shakes out.
I think Maul really needs a father figure, so this is good.
This is Maul's dad we're talking about, actually. That's the twist.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm so excited for this show.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So, and this is I saw Dan Grievous, you're in the chat, and I saw you posting about this because you were like, "Oh my God, a Star Wars show is actually going to have merch out in stores at the same time as the show is out." Maybe. Because we got not one, but two big announcements. The first, or maybe the second, I can't remember the sequence of this, was two figures. One for Marok, who I guess technically doubles as a Ahsoka figure. And also the 11th brother, which I didn't know that was his number. Personally, I didn't know he was called 11th brother. I just thought he was weird mask dude. So this is new information for me. Maybe it was out there. I don't know.
I think somewhere. I just don't remember where. I don't remember. No, wait. Is it because that's what he was called in the Ahsoka novel, and that's supposed to be him, and that's because of the whole retcon controversy that everyone gets so mad about? I don't remember now.
Trying
Maybe
to put the pieces together from Dave Filoni made a mess of it.
I know, right? But yeah, this is cool. I talked about, you brought up my point last time when we talked about the trailer of how this is the first animated show to be about a movie character, or at least focus on a movie character primarily. I wonder if that's why this is getting merch before the show, because compared to, say, like, I don't know, Bad Batch, where it's like new characters and we don't really know if they're going to hit or not. It's mall. You put some mall packaging and people will be nostalgic for it. We're the audience. We got the money for it. So I wonder if, like, they can be a little bit more, let's market this because it's Maul. People like the Darth Maul just as much as they like the Grugad. The Maul and the Grugad, right? Grugel,
Yeah.
the Grugel and the Maul. Everyone likes the Maul and the Grugad. That's the next movie. So I wonder if that's why they're a little bit more pushing this harder, because it's Darth Maul, and Darth Maul is still very marketable to this day, right? Like, it's like Vader. You can put him on anything, it will sell something. That's just my thought.
We love that mall packaging.
Yeah, agreed. Great logo too. Great logo art.
It is. I like the car too. These are for the record. These are vintage collection, 3.75 inch figures. That I don't know the release date. I'm not a figures guy. Okay, I'm not a big collector. I don't get all this information. But what I used to collect. Okay, I am a recovering Funko Popaholic. Okay, but these might actually get me back on the wagon or off the wagon, depending on how you look at it. We got several Funko Pops for Maul Shadow Lord. One is Maul, one is Rook Cast. In other words, there's another Maul with a cloak. And then we get Icarus, who is one of Maul's Night Brother dudes that I didn't even notice in the first time I watched the trailer for the things. Apparently there's two.
So
there's
quick.
two in there.
Yeah, it was so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also get, again, the same Inquisitor, weird mask dude Inquisitor from the Tales of the Jedi Inquisitor, I'm going to call him. Here he's called the Crow. So now he's got two names. He's got
the Crow. Now he's got a cool name.
The seventh.
I bet you all the
11th brother.
All the other Inquisitors are like, why do we just have numbers? We want a cool nickname, man. They're getting the clone treatment. They're getting the clone trooper treatment. Oh my god.
Okay, according to Matthew Hardy in the chat, he was named the sixth brother in the novel. So further complicating things. Thanks, Dave Filoni.
Wow.
So now he's the 11th brother, who's also known as the Crow. So I don't know. Was that what that movie was about a few years ago? They had the Crow, the movie. I don't know. I didn't see it.
Crazy.
But yeah, seriously though, these look really cool. I'm especially interested in Icarus, who I forget who's voicing him. But I'm very, very curious. I'm hoping they'll have some decent roles. So yeah, and then Rick Cast, who is a character that's been around for a while. Finally getting. I think this might be the first time she's got like something that is merch related. So yeah, cool. Are we hyped for this merch? Is anybody buying these? Is anybody going to hold themselves back?
I too am trying to. I'm a recovering Funko Pop addict, so they look really cool, and I love the packaging, but I'm not going to purchase them because it's a dark path. But the figures look great. I think I might grab the figures though.
I probably won't buy any merch unless someone gives it to me for my birthday or something. But yeah, these all look great. It's cool that they're getting some Funkos.
And just so you know, if you do not buy them, you're just contributing to the eventual death of the Funko company. Just so you know, just putting that in your conscience.
Is that? I don't know.
But anyway, I don't know, guys. Do we want to answer some questions? Perhaps we want to.
Yeah, let's
sure. I saw a couple good ones.
Let's yeah, yours are in there too. I don't know. Should we? I feel weird answering your questions while you're here, Joel.
There were two from today that I thought were pretty cool.
Yes. I'm not sure I got those in the notes, but we'll answer them either this week or next week. because I really do try to like keep all the questions in the notes and answer them all. It's just that, sometimes we run out of time. We have some time next week, so let's jump into it. Gilster10 says, will we see the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi and Talls in the Clone Wars portrayed as less technologically advanced cultures? While the chairman of Pandora was ready to wipe out the Talls, the Empire largely left Ewoks alone, and some even left the Forest Moon after the war. With those contrasts in mind, is there anything in the Galactic Law, Republic, Imperial, or otherwise, that resembles Star Trek's Prime Directive when it comes to interacting with so-called primitive species? So obviously, like Star Trek is like, if it's pre-warp, they don't have space travel, then they kind of stay away from them. So that's what's kind of interesting. We don't have a equivalent in Star Wars that I know of. We haven't really gotten into the whole idea of like exploring, and like we don't really get explorers. I think High Republic is kind of the closest we've gotten to like exploring different eras and seeing how they actually like colonize the galaxy. That's kind of a thing that's already happened in the movies.
Yeah. The only thing, because I think the Tulls and the moon that they're on is a great example. But I do think there's a lot of, especially in like seasons 1, 2, and 3, like there is like half the arcs in those seasons of Clone Wars is Jedi ending up on a planet they're not meant to and finding a colony and befriending them and kind of militarizing them and then leaving. Like that is so frequent. And I think it's, and I mean, but it also is kind of also more intensely in season 7, Skeko Minor, those like kind of long-limbed sort of primitive, the language is really kind of basic and Tech can like barely understand what they're saying, and the Bad Batch sort of joined them, but it's kind of got this connotation of, oh, even though the Bad Batch or the Jedi, these are our good guys, is it morally right to be doing this and coming in and kind of enforcing your, kind of military law on these tribes? So I don't know any really Star Trek stuff, so I can't really make an answer to the comparison. But I do think there is interesting sort of what's the technical word? Kind of moral dialogue that happens in Clone Wars. That kind of commenting on how appropriate is that, and how do you go about that? And that's, even though it's the good guys, it's not actually great. So it is. Yeah, it's
I don't think there's anything in Star Wars that's equivalent to the Prime Directive, which is the rule in Star Trek where if you come up across a civilization that hasn't accomplished warp drive, you can't interact with them. I do know in Legends that Republic was very much like human colonists would just colonize a planet like in Naboo, and then if they met the Gungans, they're like, yeah, we don't like these freaks. Drive them into the underwater. We don't like them. That's why the Gungans and Naboo do not get along, because there was some wars and it was not pretty. But that's Legends. Although I like to still apply it to canon as well. So I don't think the Republic, or at least the individual colonies that they sent out, have qualms of doing bad things to the natives. Clearly it's like happened on Tatooine too, where it's like, oh yeah, the Tuscans, and we don't like them. We're gonna set up our sandy spots anyway. We don't care. And the Empire, it's like, well, there is a Legends novel where Thrawn literally did suggest to Palpatine, hey, if you want to defend the shield, you should just burn down like 3/4 of the forest so that you can better defend it. And well, the Ewoks are there. Oh well, fried teddy bears. So, the highly advanced civilizations in Star Wars tend to be like our highly advanced civilizations in Star Wars when it comes to natives, which is kill them. Or do horrible things to them, depending on the situation. So yeah, there's actually lots of legend stories in Star Wars where it's like, ooh, they did some pretty nasty stuff to the indigenous folks. Or there's one story about how the Mon Calamari, because they were the more advanced civilization in Mon Cala, kidnapped Quarren children and forced them to civilize them at their schools and assimilated them into their more civilized approach. And that's why some Quarren don't like the Mon Cala, and there's a big divide there, and that's why they joined the Separatists. And but that was a Star Wars insider story. So
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there are any rules. I think it's a fair game. He who has the biggest blaster wins.
Star Wars is a lot more dystopian than Star Trek. Like, that's a big difference between the two of many Star franchises. Star Wars is a lot of times a commentary on, like, when the world goes wrong, when the galaxy goes wrong, how do the heroes react? Whereas Star Trek a lot is about kind of upholding the order that has been established, and it still gets complicated, and there's still lots of social commentary. But they're coming from a kind of more structured setup in the universe, and Star Trek with the Federation and Starfleet and such. But it's interesting comparing them.
Yeah, Star Wars is dystopian in a lot of ways, and Star Trek is absolutely utopian. It's Star Wars is the mirror to our galaxy. Star Trek is the picture perfect what we could achieve if we all worked together and made all the right decisions most of the time. So I think that's why you have like stuff like that. It's like, this is what ideally should happen, but there should be a prime directive. But Star Wars is just like, yeah, that in the real world, that stuff wouldn't happen.
Maybe there will be in the new Jedi Order. Maybe when we get to all these future Star Wars films, there's a more utopian government for once.
Maybe Rey Skywalker will establish the Federation of Planets, and that'll be the start, and we'll just find out Star Wars is all along has been the backstory for Star Trek. And it's all connected.
Yes.
Maybe.
Crazy.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Here's a left turn for you. Here's a left turn. We got a great question from our friend MandoMerc85, who says, "Hey SWU, I have a question about clones. As we saw in the Bad Batch, all clones were decommissioned by the Empire. However, many of the well-known clones' fate were left out of the story. What do you think happened to some of our most beloved clones like Boyle, Apo, and Doom after the decommission? And what do you think Wolf and Gregor did before joining Rex on the abandoned AT-AT? Bonus question, what do you think happened to the clone bar?" That clone bar being on, I forget the name of it, but it's on Coruscant, where you see in the end of Clone Wars and the beginning of Bad Batch. So any theories about some of our favorite clones that we never really got an answer to?
Well, Apo went back to the Air Nomad Temple. I know that for sure.
That is true. It's canon.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we don't even have to try and guess or hope or dream, because we'll get a clone rebellion show. I hope this is all actually given to us on a platter of hey, this is what happened to all the clones that lived. So that's my 2 cents about it.
So happy.
Yeah, I think that's maybe that's one of the two biggest surprises with Maul Shadow Lord. One, that we were getting a Darth Maul animated show, which I for one was when I first heard that, even before it was announced, they're like, oh, maybe they're making a Darth Maul show. I'm like, that doesn't sound real. That sounds like somebody made up. But two, not getting what I feel Bad Batch perfectly set up, which is the Clone Rebellion storyline that is out there still, that I think they very well we could maybe go back to that after Maul. I don't know what Filoni has planned, but I think there's definitely Bad Batch was focused on the Bad Batch, and I think fair enough. But there's a lot of stuff even Cody is seemingly deserts off screen, so there's a lot of clones out there, and I like the idea. I like the idea that it wasn't just clear cut. Obviously the decommissioning, but it seemed like some clones were cool with the Empire. They stayed with them. Some clones did not. And some clones were just straight up right out of the gate. We're doing a rebellion. So I think there's literally a million different stories there you could tell about different clones, and just underground railroad for clones. I don't know. It's interesting that I think we see. I mean, we see an Obi-Wan Kenobi, a clone on the street begging for money. Like I think a lot of these stories, unfortunately, are probably going to be really sad. That's the only thing that I dread about this.
I'm curious in general. When we always talk about Clone Rebellion, but like, I am kind of curious if that is Rex's goal to overthrow the Empire, because we look at things like the Path and the stuff like that. That's not a rebellion. That is, like you said, Ben. It's the equivalent of the Underground Railroad. It's just basically get these people to safety. Like, it's not even about overthrowing the Empire. Yeah, we're not doing that right now. We can't. That's gonna fail miserably right now. We gotta just hide, go underground. And I kind of wonder if instead of like Clone Rebellion, it's more of a clone safety retreat. Get them to their own pabus. Get them to their own safety places. As many clones as you can. Who want to defect or just retire. We even see in Rebels. Ooh, Ben is freezing. Rex isn't even fighting the rebellion. He's just on a weird sandy planet with an AT. Oh shoot, I forgot what it's called. ATSD? Not ATSD. Dang it.
ATTE.
ATTE. Thank you. Right? And he kind of retired. In fact, there's even like one scene where it's like, I forget, is it Gregor or Wolf who's like still has contact with the Empire, but it's like, oh, he's the crazy
Wolf,
one.
I think, yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know why, but it's like clearly they're not on a wanted list. So it's like, I gotta wonder, is it a clone rebellion or more like a clone just helping association that fires back and like get these clones out of here to some safety and some good retirement? Their war is done. They're not really gonna overthrow the Empire in the next 10 years. It's gonna take a while and a lot of losses. So maybe lay low, wait for the right moment. And then obviously Rex does come back into the fold later when Kanan shows up and then gets to be around for the actual rebellion. So yeah, it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be sad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like, in certain ways, like the clones are yet another persecuted class under the Empire that, are either neglected or straight up hunted by the Emperor. So I'm very curious to see what I think there's a plan there. I think they're going to be doing some stuff. Just interesting what they will actually do. Really interesting. Joel Davis.
Yes.
Do you have a question for us? You're all the time in the chat. You got questions, you got all this kind of stuff. You're here now. Do you have a question for us?
I do. And I'm going to use this opportunity to actually read not one of my questions, but a question from the Discord today, which I actually really liked. So
how generous of you.
Gilster 10, you get another round because I really like this question. With Ahsoka venturing into another galaxy, will future Star Wars media explore the unknown regions in more depths? We've already seen glimpses of them in the Thrawn prequel trilogy, part of the sequel trilogy like Exegol, and references in Jedi games series with the Zeffo fleeing there. Given that Thrawn novels introduced the Grisk as a major extragalactic threat, effectively the canon counterpart of the Yuzong Vong, the unknown regions seem ripe for storytelling, whether that means uncovering lost civilizations, ancient force traditions, or entirely new galactic threats. And Gilster was nice enough to put a little map of the unknown regions, of the Star Wars galaxy and where the unknown regions are, which are a little bit over to the right of the galaxy. So yeah, unknown regions. Are we going to explore the unknown regions? Will the unknown regions be known?
I mean, it's interesting. We're talking about the Prime Directive and like space exploration. Like, that would be an interesting part to, a post Rise of Skywalker story of just like galaxy expanding, what that would entail, them going like, at what point do the unknown regions become known? At what point do you start like actually mapping that? And, seem like they got plenty of planets already, but what's a few more? They're going to want to, there's going to be stuff there. And the fact that, and I don't know, it might be spurred on by the fact that there's threat. There's something comes out of the unknown regions that they didn't anticipate. And it really screws things up. And maybe that is kind of the foreboding of just like, let's try to understand what's in there. Because that would be interesting.
I think even the Ahsoka show was like the first kind of step to maybe just like question that and show that a bit more, which is really cool. But I can definitely see going forward because I feel like Dave is a big fan of this sort of topic and concept of like the never regions and unknown regions, and so I definitely think we could see it upcoming. Maybe not as like full force as like the EU love to really get into all of that and the chiss and everyone and all these kind of ideas. Probably not as in depth or intensely, but I definitely think it's coming. I mean, just the fact that it's like, hey, is this, crazy creation of Abeloth going to be a thing that exists like that? She probably will be in season 2, maybe, kind of. We don't know, but yeah, I think the unknown regions could definitely be sort of like, it feels like the next logical step to be like, oh, there's so much more, not just only in another galaxy, but in the galaxy we know what's in that unknown region.
Yeah.
I think it's
there's
something there for sure.
I really want to see that in all the Star Wars films that are set after the Rise of Skywalker. Like, because I think that we can't keep retreading the same familiar places and familiar foes in the Star Wars galaxy. So I'm glad that they went to Exegol in Rise of Skywalker. I think it would have been even cooler if someone other than Palpatine was was kind of the main villain behind it all. So I think they were halfway there with that idea. So I think they can go all the way and have, unfamiliar galaxies and unfamiliar kind of villain or hero characters to come and help in the future of Star Wars in the timeline. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Ooh, lost Hannah. Oh no. Where'd Hannah go?
She went to the unknown regions, not to come back.
Oh no. Well, it's so fascinating, the unknown regions. They built that part up so much in like the Aftermath books, which as books, I always felt were like made a lot more with directives of like sprinkle things that might actually matter to the movies. Some of it did weirdly enough come to pass. I mean, the Exegol and the unknown regions, and you ever reread the Aftermath books, dang, those books really do make it seem like the First Order is just a big Palpatine comeback scheme. So I find that hilarious. It's interesting how much the unknown regions have played a part in Star Wars expanded media since, quite frankly, the original Thrawn trilogy in 91, where Thrawn kind of hints, even in the final book, of like, oh, I have bases in the unknown. There are terrors, Pelion, by which even you, as a mere mortal, could not dare to comprehend. And that's why I side with the Empire, because I think authoritarianism is what can stop it. And then, in later stuff like the Old Republic, there were ideas of like, that's where the Sith Empire truly lied, and the true ancient of ancient Sith lie, and blah, blah, blah. Now we're kind of getting to a point in Ahsoka where it's like, is this where the Force comes from? Is this, sorry, hear sounds in the background. Is this where the Jedi's origin truly lie? Clearly the Night Sisters come from the unknown regions if they're in Peridia. And I think it's just interesting. I agree with you, Chris. I think we should, if not explore it, then definitely have things come to us and realize, yeah, the Star Wars, it's called the Star Wars Galaxy. It's not called the Star Wars Universe. Ergo, there are other galaxies. Are there other empires? Are there other republics? Are there characters that make Palpatine look like a mini nuisance where it's like, oh my god, this guy, the devil, truly is evil. He is God. And I think that can just get, wilder and crazier if they want to go that route. And I've kind of felt for a while that if you're going to do 10, 11, 12, Mr. Kinberg, if that's what you're doing, which I totally think you are, unknown regions is probably an exploration of the unknown is probably the next step, because I always feel like Force Awakens was also introducing the idea of exploration, the first Jedi Temple. It kind of gets dropped in The Last Jedi because we're already on the first Jedi Temple, and then kind of comes back with Rise of Skywalker with Exegol, but Rise of Skywalker's got so many problems, can't really focus on that. So it's like, pick up those threads. Maybe that's the next place to go. We gotta learn the origins of everything, and it's not even from our galaxy, it's from another galaxy. And I think, I want to see the unknown regions at least a little bit. Don't make it too known. Keep some mystery. because it's sort of probably one of those things where it's like it's more fun to kind of imagine the Eldritch horrors of the unknown regions, but definitely give us hints of what terrors lie beyond the veil of the galaxy.
Yeah, and look, and to pull more on the thread of just like, okay, threats from outside the galaxy, and yes, we've talked about, we keep talking about the possibility of the Yuuzhan Vong and like what that could be. Like, need to remind you of this little sketch here. This was a sketch from the Clone Wars of a Yuuzhan Vong ship and a Yuuzhan Vong person. They were talking about, and if you see the ship, and you see a little tiny dot in front of the Yuuzhan Vong ship, that's a Venator Star Destroyer. That's how big that is. It's amazing.
World
and
ship.
This is proof that they were openly talking about including them in the Clone Wars in some way. How that would have worked, I don't know. But just like the idea of unknown threats and things outside the known galaxy is a thing going back to when George Lucas was in charge. And guess who drew this? The current occupant of the presidency of Lucasfilm, Mr. Dave Filoni. So
I actually know how they planned on doing this. I actually have heard the story of what this was going to be. So this was going to be, from what I remember, this is their X-Files parody, right? They're, if you've ever seen X-Files, it's about hunting aliens, stuff like that.
Right.
And I think the idea was, because Dave, unlike George, does like Legends, like, hey, let's do X-Files, and then we can kind of like show the Vong. It probably wouldn't have been like a big thing. It probably would have been like they hunt aliens, they couldn't find anything, and then like in the I could imagine like the last 5 minutes or like last minutes like a Yuuzhan Vong, and then like hardcore fans will go like, oh my god, the Yuuzhan Vong, and they're hinting, of course, at the New Jedi Order book series, which was post Endor, because when you read those books, it's like you find out the Yuuzhan Vong had been planning their invasions for like the entirety of the prequels and original trilogy, and like it's a whole shebang. So I think that was sort of more like that is the equivalent of fan service to Legends fan, where it's like, we're doing an X-Files parody. We'll make the aliens the Yuuzhan Vong for you guys. Don't look too deep into it, but it's for you, right? But it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I do think that could happen, because I do think I'm a big believer that everything Star Wars for the next 10, 20 years will be some sort of adaptation of a Star Wars expanded universe thing. I also believe this because I truly do believe in my heart and hearts that in 10 to 20 years, they will bring back Mara Jade, because they need to break that glass eventually. And I will not be surprised if 10 through 12 was some sort of adaptation of various post-Endor things like the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, even if it's not the Vong themselves, but Vong adjacent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think I think it was a sure deal. I genuinely, I'm not even kidding you. I think it'll happen. Maybe within the next 10 years. It'll happen at some point. I think Ahsoka was a step in that direction. I think step in, just like, okay, here's something different. That's what interested me so much. It's like, yeah, Peridia as a planet is like not visually stunning. It's not a lot going on there seemingly, but it's the idea of like, okay, we're going to go to other galaxies. We're going to see other things, and what consequences does that have? Maybe Ahsoka and Sabine bring something back with them when they return to the galaxy. Perhaps.
Mama Abeloth, here she's coming, Mama.
I would like to see that.
All right. That would be interesting. I don't know. Is that it? Did we cover it all? Is that it?
Yes.
No Mando trailers. We're good.
Not yet, anyway. Has anybody checked Blue Sky? Is the trailer out yet?
Nope, I checked.
Exclusively on Blue Sky only.
Yes.
Star Wars, Lucasfilm still does not have an official account on Blue Sky. What are you doing, guys? What are you doing?
That's shocking, because usually when we make an account somewhere, they do. Like, my favorite moment was when we made a Tumblr account, and literally 5 days later, there was an official Star Wars Tumblr account. And I'm like,
I remember that.
What's going on?
I didn't know that.
I remember that. Crazy.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this show. Oh yeah, that's right. We have a standard procedure for ending the show. Let me make that happen. There we go. Okay. That was the right vibes to end the show. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching, so much for listening. You can, of course, catch more from us on Blue Sky and all the other social medias at the SWU throughout the week. We want to thank Hannah for being on and hosting. As previously mentioned, she took an early trip to the unknown regions during the show. But we wish her Godspeed in her voyage out there, and you can follow her adventures out there at the Raeside, Raeside. Ben, thank you so much for hosting.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you so much for having me. And it was kind of a slow news week, I guess, if you're not like a super Disney fan. But also a lot going on, and I think I don't know, the trailer isn't officially confirmed. Lucasfilm hasn't made any kind of official announcements, but I think Lucasfilm's going to pull out all the stops here. I think really we're heading into Mando and Grogu promotion territory now. I think it's going to be they don't want to hear the whole like a Solo argument. It's like they didn't promote that movie enough. Like, nah, I don't think there's anybody going to be anywhere on this side of Mars is not going to know that the Baby Yoda movie is in theater, okay? It's going to be a big deal. Everybody's going to know about it. The promotion machine, you will not be able to escape it. Not even the Super Bowl.
Yes, indeed. And you can follow Ben on social media at Hart with no E. Joel, thank you so much for dropping in, and thank you so much for all the Disney corporate expertise.
I am officially a Disney stockholder. It is my job to make sure that the company is run successfully for my investment portfolio. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to give some context to the Disney machinations. Seriously, study Disney as a corporation. There are some wild stories in terms of just a lot of backstabbing, and it really is Succession brought to life. If you watch that show, it's a fascinating company in terms of how people got their power and lost it. It's great stuff, but I'm so glad to have been here for all that and more. Oh, and someone's back from the unknown, reporting from the unknown region.
You know what? Time also works differently. It's been a year for Hannah, but it's only been 2 minutes
I'm already
for us.
in another dimension.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Hannah, how is Exegol? How is the Emperor? Is he doing well?
Somehow Palpatine has returned again. That's it. Yes,
Again.
I know. That's what. Yeah.
Wow.
But are we into the wraps? Good times. Glad to be back. Great to see you all.
Of course.
That's all I needed to add.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Raeside for all the adventures over Hannah's year in the unknown regions.
Oh, and Joel,
Joel,
tell us what's going on in the Discord this week.
Yes, this Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be playing some games. We might play some Fortnite. We're thinking about playing Overwatch because it's apparently a big update and sounds like a lot of fun. Of course, we can also play Marvel Rivals if you guys want to. All sorts of fun things. And then the week after, we're going to continue our Mandoverse rewatch with Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 7 and 8, the Season 1 finale, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we rewatch all of the Mandalorian and remember why we love that Baby Yoda in the first place. That Baby Gru gag, or whatever.
Yeah. It was like, I always forget. Grugao?
Grugao. That Baby Grugao.
Baby Grugao. That's it.
Grugao. All right, thank you, Joel. Joel's on social media at JID20234. And of course, check out the show he does with Matthew on Mondays, Iron Cannon, right here on this channel. Also, check out Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more, in addition to all the shows that we all collectively do. And we want to remind everybody to punch the subscribe button on their way out. We want to thank everyone for their generous super chats during the show and for our sustaining channel members that keep paying for any expenses we have to keep the show on air. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate you in the TK squad. That's it. We'll be back next week. But until then, may the Force be with you.
I can't wait for the Moon DeLorean and Grogu.
Moon DeLorean and Grogu.
BDX droids. Give me all the BDX droids, please.
Buy the Grogu Furby dolls. They just released those.
Oh
They're
my
good.
gosh.
And the Lego sets. So
much merch. So much merch for the parks. All for the parks. Thank you, Josh.
And they're going to be McDonald toys, too. There's going to be McDonald toys in May for me.
Oh my gosh. Star Wars returned.
To McDonald's.
All right, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.